All right, y'all. So this how we finna go ahead and get started. So I'm finna actually subsection this, and the best thing to ask your client is what side do you want the part on, okay? I know y'all really can't see my face. Let me see if I can do it this way. Okay, I guess I only can do it like that though. But maybe this, hold on, let me just prop this up. Let me get the camera right out. Okay. That ain't gonna work. Okay, so that's the best I can do, y'all. Yeah, no, I'm trying. All right, boom. So the first thing you're gonna do is ask your client, do they want a middle part or do they want a part on the side? All right. So that's the first thing we're gonna ask. We're gonna ask her now. You want your part on the side or do you want it in the middle? Okay, so she want hers in the middle. So I'm gonna part it and section it or subsection it to where the part is like in the middle. All right. So y'all see, we already got it retightened with a center part. So I'm just gonna throw some rubber bands in there, just so that I know exactly where we at. All right, so since these going to be her front, then I'm going to do an ear to ear part, and then I'm going to put it in two sections in the front so that she can have her middle part, okay? Then the next thing you're going to do is, and if they want a heavy part, that's fine. You'll just put the part where they want it at so that it can fall the way that they want it to fall. Now, just for like a visual base, if it's a side part, it's all going to go to this side. If it's this side, it's going to flow heavy on that side. If it's a middle part, it's going to just, be equal, okay? So it just depends on how they like to do it. The next section is I like to get this little top round crown part right here in the crown area. I like to put that into a small section by itself, okay? Because this is how I'm gonna chop it up like this here so that when it lays, you know what I'm saying, it lays down and it ain't just like in one general area, so I can, angle it to where it could be some falling on each side to make sure that it ain't no gaps, okay? All right, I'm using these same rubber bands that I used for her retightening. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down, and I like to put in just like a few sections this way. This also to me just helps as I go along. And then it's also subsectioned, so it's broken down for me, so it make it much easier. But also so that I can see the direction that we're dropping these curls in, like how we want these curls to fall. So meaning, if I wanted this to go all the way on one side, I'm not going to section it like this here. I'm going to actually section it in the way that I want it to fall. So if I was doing the design to come up, and then I had all this as curls, then I would start at the bottom and I would subsection it to go around basically this way so that it can all kind of pretty much fall, okay, down on this side. So basically, whichever way you want your curl to fall, that's how you need it to sit and dry. So you're going to want to do it in that direction, okay, you guys? No shortcuts. Especially if you're doing real small sections or if you want it to be neat. I like it to be as neat as possible. So I find that this makes it very neat. Okay, and then I'm going to have the bottom section by itself, okay? So I put all this in one big little rubber band just so that it's out the way, because when you're working, you want your sections to be as neat and organized as possible so that you can see where you're working at, okay? Now, if you want to, you could have made a little straight line as much as possible. You could throw these off into the section if you want to. It's not really like a crazy big deal because the sections are going to be small pretty much anyway. But just because we're doing this video, I'll go ahead and just throw these on up. Alright. So, boom, boom, okay? I'm going to tuck that way. So, I'm kind of going to see, like, how big I want these sections, how thick I want the rolls. Because if you would like to cut this in half, you definitely can. If you want this to stay just as is, you can rock it as is. Hey, boo, is everything okay? Okay. I just gotta get it ordered, delivered. Oh, okay, okay. All right, to be honest too, I probably can do it that way too as well if you want. Yeah, I probably can do it that way, but I probably ain't gonna be ready until I can get a couple of days when I be ready. You just let me know. Yeah, yeah. Or remember I said I could do two of them, so it could be some this month, some next month. Okay. What my sister's on? Yeah. Okay, that's cool. All right, boo. We good. All right, love. All right. So what y'all see me doing is I wrap it one way. Sorry, babe. I wrap it one way, and then what I do is I continue on the opposite way with the roller. So what that means is that I put it onto the roller, and I am wrapping it up. Okay. So I'm wrapping it up the ends, and then what I nicely do is I take this and then I go the opposite way because I'm going and rolling it up. I roll it right back on top of the hair that I wrapped, or the ends that I wrapped along the pipe cleaner. So basically, I'm just wrapping it over what I already wrapped, and that's just so that it can stay secure. And then I bend it over. Okay, you guys. So I like to keep the sections very cute and small. If you have some that fall off, that's okay and fine. Let it fall. As you start to wrap, okay, the hair along the wrap a lot, well, the pipe cleaner, you're just gonna grab it like I did and just wrap it back in the same way that we did the original ends, and then again wrap this on top of it, okay, and then simply fold it over. What you see me spread down with was a little water. I throw a little foam, and then at the end, I use a lot of got to be glue. That's like my secret at the end because that's going to make sure that it got a nice hold on it. Okay, and then allow the hair to set for a couple of days. So if you're gonna do something like this here and put in this much work, you want to make sure that you allow the hair set. Even if you get underneath the dryer, you gonna want this hair to set for a few days just so your curls can be bouncy. Okay, if you want them to be flowing and bouncy and not crunchy and hard, you let it sit just so that it can get the motion in, okay, the way that it needs to. All right, so now y'all see we working on the next one. Okay, we pretty much go through this fairly quickly. Okay, this part right here goes, pretty quick. It's just making sure that you do that little wrap game. Okay, I don't like for it to be too crazy, crunchy, crunchy. So I like for it to have a little motion. And you pretty much gonna just have your client going back and forth as you wrap these. Okay. Don't try to do crazy big sections. Try to keep them neat and small. Now, traditionally, it takes me about an hour to do this, maybe like an hour and a half. So just make sure that you cut off that much time so that you are ready. Now, I had my client double wrap these, and then they twist them and then twist a loop in the end, okay? Twist a loop in the end. And the reason why I like them double together or twisted together is because it makes it much more strong. If you just use one pipe cleaner, these are going to be they're going to be very fragile, and they're not going to have like a nice form. Like how I'm wrapping this against it and it's able to withstand it without bending with it. That's kind of like what you want. And you don't have to throw your pipe cleaners away once you get them together, y'all. Because, you be done did 200. You don't want to throw them away like that. I don't. And I don't tell my clients to. We actually reuse them. And they bring them right back on in. Okay, you guys? Bring them right back on in. Matter of fact, the ones that we using today are actually reused. So if you spend all your time preparing them, You do not gotta throw them away. Just go ahead and put them in a little bag and just reuse them. Pull them out when you're ready to get this type of curl going. Now, when I'm getting into my sections, I only unravel one section at a time. Usually starting in the middle and working my way out. Okay, you guys? Starting in the middle and working my way out. Right here. Now we are going to work our way out. So I'm gonna wet this thing down. Now remember, the more you wet it, it's all better. You want to make sure that that thing is nicely saturated. Okay, you want it to be wet because when the hair is wet and then it dries, that is what rebonds it into that new curl. Okay, if that makes any sense to y'all. And then as I go along, you see how I did that. I'm finna actually spray that down with that got to be. Okay. With that got to be, you want to make sure that you touch it all at the same time. When I'm saying that, I mean I'm rubbing it. You see, I'm rubbing it in there. I'm rubbing it because that got to be so good that sometimes it'll freeze it on itself. What that means is that it'll keep the bubbles on top, okay? And then you'll have bubbles everywhere. So you want to make sure that you go through and you touch them, and you make sure there's no bubbles there, okay, you guys? And then we finna continue on. Yeah, make sure that you're making nice, clean, precise sections. And we go in, and we go ahead and get that thing right. Wrap it the opposite way. As long as it's wrapped around that pipe cleaner, it don't matter. It ain't got to be cute. It ain't got to be extra pretty. Just make sure that you wrap on top very secure so that it is actually laid down. Don't stop, just get it. Y'all got this. basically, y'all get the logistics of this, okay? So you're gonna continue on through the whole entire head this way, and you want it to look exactly how this look. I'm gonna actually get done with this small section, and I'm gonna spray both these sections that I just completed. When I see foam, I hit it with the water first, and then I go through and hit it with the got to be. And remember, you got to touch that thing while you spraying it. I'm lifting up the sections just to make sure that I get up in that good. Y'all, and there we go. So we done did all of this. I have one section on each side to go, and then my top portion, and then we'll be in the front. I do all of these sections first, and then once I'm done with these sections, then I go to this section at the crown, and then I proceed to my two front sections. Sorry, I hit your whole head. My bad. Yes, y'all. So yes, this is a little tedious process, okay? So make sure y'all at least take off at least 2 hours or mark off 2 hours in order to get this completed. Don't try to do any shortcuts. It definitely will show in the end result. So whatever sections you start with, try to finish with, medium, small, or large. But just be consistent. Don't worry about the foam part. It really don't matter. The reason why I say that, it mean look how white it look. Because once it dries, y'all, it's literally going to be drying clear as these sections did, okay? So don't be like, oh my gosh, I put too much.